Welcome back to Prepare for the Unexpected. Today we are talking with Andrew Zeigler from Tempest Risk Management. Uh, Andy, great first and second segments there. Lots of good information. Now, in the final one, I'd like to talk about the third pillar that you mentioned in your articles, and that is on AI ethics and compliance. What do you mean there?
So what we mean when we talk about ethics and compliance is, AI, mostly we're talking about like data and algorithms and technology, but really the implementation and utilization of AI within a company, it begins with leadership. And that the leadership must intentionally create a framework and ask the most important question of all, which isn't, can we do this, but should we do this? And that's really the ethical piece that I think a lot of companies are going to have to align themselves to. Ask that question, what are the guardrails that we are going to put into place? I think that's something that every person and every company can identify for themselves. So every company, I think that the AI ethics policy is going to become a standard and should become a standard part of every company's policies and procedures. So if you have a cybersecurity policy, think that needs to start to be enhanced with an AI ethics policy as well, which really starts to talk about how far are we going to take this, and where are we going to stop. We disclose at Tempest, we disclose that we utilize AI. And that was what we determined when we sat down and talked about AI, how we're going to use it. Ethically, what are our responsibilities? And we felt that ethically, our responsibility was we're okay with using it, but we need to disclose that we are using it and to what degree. And so we actually disclose in all of our contracts that we do use AI in two main ways, both as a thought partner as well as what we call hybrid drafting, which is an approach to utilizing AI for developing the first draft of content, but then using human intelligence in order to refine and customize it for the client. There's value in this, right? In that we're able to do our work a lot faster, reducing the costs that ultimately get passed on to the client. That's just one example of how, we should be consider ethics within the company and how you should be utilizing these things. So, the leadership of the company needs to sit down and talk about how we're going to do this. Let's go back to the earlier example we have of a company with a call center. Let's say that they decide to stand down that call center. From an ethical point of view, deploying the AI could cause 90 people to lose their job. So I think the company needs to define for themselves, how are we going to handle this? It doesn't mean don't lay off 90 people. I think what it means is how are we going to do this? And let's do this right over a period of time that's both right for the company as well as right for the employees that are there, making sure that they're not crossing ethical and legal boundaries by making sure that it's put down in writing in the company to say, here is what we're going to use AI for, and here's what we're not going to use AI for, at least in the beginning. It's a starting place. We are in the infancy of what is going to be a new age of doing work and doing business. And I think we need to start out from the beginning in the same way. Have a basic policy that sets some guardrails and says very clearly to the company and all of the employees in the company, here is what we will do, and here is what we're not going to do for now. All of this will evolve and will evolve rapidly. Just like AI is evolving rapidly, so should your approach to identifying what ethics mean to you as a business, as well as making sure that from a compliance point of view, you're keeping up with what the regulators, government agencies, and legal industry is going to require you to do from a compliance point of view. Are there certain things that you can do with AI, but legally may not be allowed to do, or from a regulatory point of view, may not be allowed because that's not the intent? Work with clients before that have to fill out, complete a checklist, complete a compliance checklist, and send that off to a regulator every couple of months. And we talked about, well, we can just have AI do the checklist and send that off to the regulator. And I'm like, yes, you can, but that's not really the intent of what that checklist was. The intent of the checklist was to make sure that you, as the owner of the company, put human eyes on what's happening in your company and you make a human decision about whether that is okay or not. So you really have to consider whether doing something like that is going to help or not. We just saw, I was reading an article just this morning, that I think it was Deloitte or one of the large consulting firms just had to settle just had to settle on like a $200 million or a $200,000 case with one of their clients because, they basically charged the client $400,000 for what was essentially an AI generated report, and they got caught doing it.
Mhm.
So not only is it terrible reputation for the company, but I really have to wonder, does the company's leadership, were they aware that their employees had the ability and that their employees were doing this? If not, then I would say that that company has a serious AI ethics and compliance problem that they need to get addressed very quickly. So for all companies, organizations, and platforms that are out there, highly recommend you think about this and put in place an AI ethics and compliance policy today in order to protect yourself tomorrow. But understand that it's going to evolve over time. Make it an intentional part of the conversation of your company going forward.
A couple of things. That was really good. I really enjoyed listening to that piece. The point you made at the beginning, where leadership needs to take a look and say, should we be doing this? How are we going to do this? What's the impact? It's not just the impact on those, using the call center example again,
Yeah.
the 90 people that may end up having their positions changed. But if you don't use it ethically, that and those 90 people are just told, okay, well, now we have AI, get out, that's going to have an impact on the remaining staff as well.
Mhm.
Morale could go down, productivity will go down. So you kind of have to look at it, not just what we can enhance, but does it have a rippling effect anywhere else? Right? I guess you have to see a
Yeah.
little more than just what's right in front of you.
Absolutely. And I mean, think about existing companies now have staff that are concerned and are afraid about their job. And if the company isn't talking at all about what their AI ethics policy or what their intentions are down the road, it's just going to cause more fear and uncertainty within that organization, which is usually going to impact employee satisfaction. And you're going to start to see a decrease in performance from your employees before you even have the chance to implement AI. So you don't want to have that happen where you have this dip in your capabilities and service before AI finally starts to be able to take off. Because then that could be a 6 month to a year period in which you're not able to service your customers and clients the way that you are today. So get out in front of it. Make sure that you have a plan, communicate that plan to your employees. Even better, engage them, make them a part of the conversation, right? And you can do that via a number of different ways. You can form an AI ethics and compliance committee within your company and invite a couple of members from each team, even people who are at the lowest level, entry level employees, invite them, get them some skin in the game where they can now have some representation and talk about, where this company should go and understand to make sure that that way the leadership can understand how it impacts the feelings of everybody, the breadth of the company, from the first entry person, right, from the person, the most recent hire to the person who's been there the longest. Make sure that we understand and gather everybody's perspectives when developing some of these policies.
I like that. I like having the wide spectrum of people a part of that committee. The other thing I wanted to bring out, and you touched on this using your example about the company being sued by 200 million
Yeah.
for that report because somebody was using AI.
I could be getting the numbers wrong, but
Yeah.
the intention is correct, but don't quote me on the numbers.
Or any companies that were named. Disclaimer.
Right. Could very well be. I could have should have done my homework. Maybe I should have brought it up and taken a look at it. But no, go look at it, October 6th, 2025. It's in the news somewhere.
It happened. We just
It
not sure the
happens.
number of the
Yes.
people. But with regards to that, though, how do we, because this was something I really wanted to make sure I got to ask you, how do
Mhm.
we monitor that our employees, contractors, um, part-timers use it correctly? We can have a policy, but a lot of times you'll see policies, especially with regards to business continuity and disaster recovery, become tick boxes. So even a
Yeah.
policy, yeah, we have a policy tick, and that's it. So how do we, as larger organizations especially, monitor that our staffer is using AI correctly?
Wow, that's the big question there, Alex. And to be honest with you, I don't know that there's a whole lot of answers there. I think the you can set those guardrails and guidelines, but how do you monitor and make sure that people are using? Honestly, uh, ask teacher, any teacher that teaching children probably between the age of like 5 all the way into graduating college, how they're doing it. And I don't think you're going to find any really clear answers. And I think that's honestly the answer. It's going to be very difficult in order to do that. When it comes to, there are some ways. First of all, there's some tried and true ways in which you can make sure that people are actually paying attention and doing the work that they're intended to do. First is to not give them access to AI. If you're in a company in which you have these systems, you could restrict access and not allow certain things to be done a certain way. There's other things you can do. There's lots of AI. If we're talking about AI content generation and trying to pass some written material off as their own, there's AI detectors out there that you can use in order to generate and basically give you an indication as to whether something is probably being done by them or not. But a lot of companies, I would step back and say, well, what a lot of companies might find is that, they might step back and look at somebody's performance before and after the implementation of AI in their company. And they might say this employee didn't perform very well. They didn't produce anything, and they were terrible at their job. But once we introduced AI, they figured out ways to use AI. And yes, they're passing off work as their own or something along those lines, but look at how their productivity has shot up. Now, I would say that particular scenario, you might want to look at two things. First, did we do this ethically and legally, right? But then the other way is, okay, should we implement this? What did they do differently? And should we have everybody start doing the same thing? So, some of those questions maybe not necessarily, it's not as black and white as it used to be into right and wrong. There's a whole lot of gray area here, but you can manually monitor people's output and content in order to basically have AI detection. There will be tools that are going to come out that'll help with that sort of workforce development. But there are other things too when it comes to like training employees and answering tests. All right. I have 4 adult children, 3 of them are in college. So I talk to them about this and we have conversations like this all the time. And at their schools, at my one daughter's school anyway, I have twin daughters who are 21. They have eliminated all virtual testing. There's no more virtual testing or taking tests online or anything like that. They have to be proctored exams in which you are actually sitting there and you are being viewed. And luckily, the university has the infrastructure to do this where they have testing rooms all over the place. But essentially, that's what they've gone back to is no more online or digital testing. It's proctored actual exams where if a student had been faking it the entire semester, they're not going to be able to pass the exam in which they're sitting down and actually have to take the test. You can do the same thing as well in industries and companies, having in-person training as opposed to virtual training, not relying so much on email and rely on in-person meetings, having those conversations, using your human intelligence for what humans are best at, which is going to be creativity, identifying patterns, thinking of things that hadn't been done before, human relations, employee relations. How can we motivate people, right? Anything that's going to be hands-on. There's still so much that AI is really not going to be able to do that much other than enhance the human's ability in order to get more work done at scale. We just have to make sure that we're going about it in the right way. And I think a lot of those tools are going to evolve as far as how to detect whether somebody is doing something wrong or unethically, by utilizing AI within their company. But I think you're going to find more that the definition of what we consider right and wrong and legal and ethical and compliant is going to evolve just as quickly as AI itself over the next few years. So gray area, but it's going to evolve, I think, pretty quickly.
And on that note, we've come to the end of the show. Andy, thank you so much for sharing your time and talking about AI and the 3 pillars that you put together. I think it's great information for everyone watching and listening.
Thanks, Alex. Thank you again for having me on and glad I was able to share this information.
Well, thank you once again, Andy. Really appreciate your time and sharing your expertise. And everyone watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody.